is die mooiste mooi vir my. Tot in jou vlaktes waar ek al my drome kry. Tot in jou berge, jou riviere, waterstrome, bekoor jy my. Ek kan vir altyd net hier na jou skoonheid staan. Want waar het ek ooit so iets gewaar? Jy's beautiful verby vir my, dis hier by jou waar ek wil bly. Suid-Afrika, jy's my mooiste land. Suid-Afrika, ja dis jy wat my dra. Maar wat het geword van ons reënboognasie, wat hande so vat en saam so staan. Suid-Afrika, ja ons sien in die trane. Suid-Afrika, wat rol jou wange, wanneer sal ons leer dat ons mense, ons maak jou sien. Daar is so baie wat ek jou wil vra, gaan ons betaal vir die letsels wat jy dra. Ek weet die plan was nooit dat ons so moet beklei my land, maar sê vir my. Ek weet jy's baie lang van met die hoes verby. Jou kop aan swaar my land, maar sê toch nie vir my. Wat kan van jou word my land? Suid-Afrika, jy's my mooiste land. Suid-Afrika, ja dis jy wat my dra. Maar wat het geword van ons reënboognasie, wat hande so vat en saam so staan. Suid-Afrika, ja ons sien in die trane. Suid-Afrika, wat rol oor jou wange, wanneer sal ons leer dat ons mense, ons maak jou sien. Dit is tyd dat ons moet hande vat en op ons knieën neerval en vrouwe God, kom red ons land. Suid-Afrika, jy's my mooiste land. Suid-Afrika, ja dis jy wat my dra. Maar wat het geword van ons reënboognasie, wat hande so vat en saam so staan. Suid-Afrika, ja ons sien in die trane. Suid-Afrika, wat rol oor jou wange, wanneer sal ons leer dat ons mense, ons maak jou sien. Wanneer sal ons leer dat ons mense, ons maak jou sien. Suid-Afrika.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa.
Zuid-Afrika, die reënboognasie, op sy knie onder die stevel van die ANC. Welcome back, folks. South Africa, the Rainbow Nation, under the knee of the African National Congress, or on their knee, under the boot of the African National Congress. Welcome back to the program. This is Chris, live in central Pennsylvania, 1 week to the day before the election in South Africa. And no, I don't have a passport. Still waiting for it to come back. Good to hear you, or good to see you all again. Welcome back to the program. It is the 22nd of May, 1 week from South Africa's potentially momentous and historic election. I started to say education. Well, there's no education coming. Lots to talk about today. We've got the MK Party to discuss, the Democratic Alliance, the ANC. Yeah, that'll just keep us busy for a little bit. So Lorraine Slabbert says, wow, what a beautiful song. Ja, die Reënboognasie. Zuid-Afrika from Giselle, one of the songs that she produced a few years back, and we play periodically on the program. Welcome back to the program, folks. Myra Page is here, Lorraine. Ans is back, Randy Fund, Dylan Combrick, Teresa, Monray Sieberts, Wandering Turtle. Hey, Wandering Turtle's here. Janet Liddy, Allison Johnson, Clive Streak. Well, Clive, welcome. Not seeing you here very often. And Jack says, been done with flu for 9 days now, but still kicking around. Yeah, a friend of mine has got long COVID. Yeah, it's a new one. Klein Freitag. Oh, Little Friday. Is that what Wednesday is, Little Friday? Anyway, lots to talk about here. I did do a video earlier, published a video earlier today. That video was about Umkhonto we Sizwe and an update on the party and all the machinations and things taking place there. But unfortunately, it's just not getting much in the way of play. And YouTube's data is not telling me. It tells me I have no views in the last 60 minutes, which is nonsense because on my main splash page, it tells me that I have 118 views. YouTube. It's just, this platform sometimes can be very frustrating. Anyway, still looking to hopefully get someplace next week, and that place is South Africa, but it will be very much a last-minute crush, just on the fly trip if I do get there. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, folks, welcome back to the program. Let's get to the news for today. The Democratic Alliance held a rally earlier in Soweto, and how did that go? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and talk to the Democratic Alliance. I do have the leader of the Inkatha Freedom Party, Hlabisa Velenkosi Hlabisa, excuse me, who'll be on the program at 9 a.m. South Africa time on Friday. So that's 3 a.m. for me. Yes, I will be up early. Well, the African National Congress will not lose this election. This, according to Munir Palapala, out on the campaign trail saying to voters in Northwest Province, notice how the ANC is going to the places where they're in most trouble and where they need to drum up the largest number of loyal stalwarts to turn out. So they go to Mpumalanga, they go to Northwest, because that's where their strongest base is. And then the higher voter turnout in those provinces, the better their prospects. They also have gone to KZN, where they're in a lot of trouble and trying to save their ass from falling into disrepair there. ANC will not lose power, he tells supporters in Northwest, who are foolish enough to believe him. All those doomsday predictions, some people think the ANC is going to lose power, and I say that is not going to happen. Those who think the ANC is going to fall, it's not. It's going to rise. Let them be relaxed about that and accept what is going to happen. Really? Interesting. The SRF poll that keeps coming out every day, confusing the picture, says the ANC is at 44% and the DA is at 26%, 27%. We'll see what happens on Election Day. The BBC runs a story about South Africa's elections and gives you 8 charts to track the vote. Let me quickly go through that story and show you the most important charts in this story. So, it's written by South Africans, of course, and a Nigerian. Well, I don't know if they're South African. ANC support in general elections. Now, these numbers aren't accurate because they've rounded up. In 2004, they did not get 70%. They got 69 point something percent. But they've rounded up here, showing that from 1994, when the ANC got 63%, they went to 70, they dropped to 66, to 62, to 58. And Ramaphosa is saying they're not going to go below 50%. Anything above 50% will be considered a win for the ANC, and Ramaphosa will be secure in his effort to continue burying South Africans in debt, misery, and poverty, and racial strife. But yeah, if they get below 50%, we shall see. 7th election coming up. Here's the per capita GDP starting in 1994. And that per capita GDP climbed to $6,444 by 2010. And it's barely above that today. Just $300 more in the last decade, 15 years. So in 15 years, the ANC's pretty much done nothing to increase the per capita wealth of South Africans. Stagnant. It's the least equal country in the world from wealth inequality. But the problem with this is that that really isn't a measure of how people live. The United States has a degree of high wealth inequality, but people don't live in abject poverty off of government handouts like they do in South Africa. The unemployment rate, and this is a bogus official rate, is at 33%, but we know that it's much, much higher than that. Crime per 100,000, these are lying stats too. We know this is factually incorrect. The number of murders has actually gone up, but here it shows it barely going up an uptick, but it has gone up considerably. That's per 100,000 people. And here's the most telling chart of all that the BBC provides us. Days of load shedding since 2014, when there were just 5 days when power was cut in 2014, to 2016, 2017, when there were no days of power cuts, to last year, when there were more days without power than there were days with power. 289 days of load shedding last year. Now we're 50 plus days of no load shedding this year. And people act like it's all better. It's not. Well, this is one reason why the country is in such a mess. The president of the Congress of South African Trade Unions apparently thinks it's okay to be an avowed racist and say racist statements and get away with it. Well, you can in South Africa as long as you're the right skin pigmentation. You can be as racist as you want. You can. Look at the behavior of Julius Malema over and over again. South Africa will look like Orania if the ANC loses the elections. COSATU President Zingwisa Losi said the country will fall into the hands of racists should the ANC lose the elections. Seriously? Seriously? This is what you got in your kit bag? Thank you for becoming a subscriber there. Who was that? Where's my... I missed that. So thank you for becoming a subscriber. So she was speaking on an ANC podcast. She said that we will be handing over to South Africa to see what's happening in Kleinfontein and Oranje to become the state of South Africa. We cannot afford to have an Oranje or Kleinfontein. There's an entire South Africa. Wow. Really? So what exactly does she mean? The ANC can't afford to have a city where there's no rubbish on the streets, like Durban, where there's rubbish everywhere. Have a city where electricity works 24 hours a day. A community that's self-sufficient, where the roads don't have potholes, where everyone works, where white folks do menial labor. Is that what she doesn't want for South Africa? Or we know what she's talking about. Apparently, the racism just comes out every time they open their mouths. Apparently, South Africa is only South Africa if the whites are murdered or removed from South Africa. That's what she wants. No comment about the Ingonyoma Trust, which is occupied almost entirely by ethnic Zulu, where they retain their culture and protect their culture and their language. But if a small group of people who are citizens lawfully purchases land in a remote, desolate, disused part of the country, and then forms a community under business incorporation, and that community protects the culture, the faith, and the norms of an ethnic group of people who go there voluntarily and become part of that community, apparently that disturbs her. It disturbs her. In 30 years, we've done so much, the ANC. We have a long way to go, and the ANC is fit for purpose. The only thing the ANC is fit for is a war crimes trial, human rights violation trial, criminal prosecution for kleptocracy. The ANC is cleansing itself, and we see the results. What results? I'm sorry, this myth that's being spread around by the ANC today on the campaign trail about how it's cleansing itself, this verbiage, where do they get this from? Bell Pottinger? I mean, honestly, cleansing itself. What, have they all gone into the Limpopo and been re-christened as an honest, non-kleptocratic party? Really? Maybe they went to the Great Fish River or the Orange River, where then they come out being all orange, covered by mud washing down from the highlands. How is the ANC cleansing itself? I mean, what exactly are they doing? Have they prosecuted criminals from the Zondo Commission report? No. Have they concluded the criminal trial against Jacob Zuma for the arms scandal? No. Have they filed charges for the Nkanla crime? No. Has anyone ever been charged with Oilgate, Travelgate? No. Has Zandile Gumeda finished her trial yet? No. Has Dr. Zweli Mkhize even been charged with a crime in the corruption in the Digital Vibes case? No. What about the Vreda dairy scandal in the Free State, or the asbestos tender deal? Or what about the negligence of ANC authorities in diverting funds that led to the substandard sanitation in Hammanskraal that caused cholera and the deaths of South Africans? Has anybody been charged or prosecuted for the ANC local officials in Nelson Mandela Bay for returning 63 million rand of money meant to feed indigent children and toddlers and infants? No, 15 children died. All black, but hey, that's nothing but a thing to the ANC. Yes, cleansing itself. How is the ANC cleansing itself? These people are suckers, suckers, suckers. Clive says, I watch Vinant. What a good video. Unfortunately, enough for cons. Vinant and I do a program on here periodically called Fireside with the Colonels, Clive. You may know that already. Yeah, she is just absolutely out of her mind, the nonsense she's spewing here. If South Africa looks like Oranje, that's good. Of course, if what you see in Oranje is white people and that frightens you, well, then no wonder she doesn't like it. But what I look at Oranje and I see is people who are determined, self-sufficient, self-reliant, self-bestuur, and people who make things happen. That's what I see. Well, here's a New York Times article that's simply a lie in the description. We'll give you the title, and I'll expose the lie right from the very beginning. Is the party that ended apartheid losing its grip on South Africa? The ANC has long rested on its legacy, but increasingly that isn't enough to persuade voters to keep it in power. Well, the lie told by John Ellegon, a Johannesburg bureau chief for the Times, is that the ANC didn't end apartheid, John. That's a fiction, one that you're a sucker and fell for. The ANC had very little to do with the end of apartheid. Giving them credit, allowing them to steal credit for something that they did not accomplish is disingenuous. It's dishonest. It's disreputable. It's sad and pathetic. So the New York Times spreading the propaganda that the ANC liberated South Africa. They did not. They did not. Hey, folks, listen, you got to give the ANC a chance. You've got to give them time. Listen, only 100,000 people died under COVID on ANC's watch. 102,000, only 102,000. And only 600,000 young South Africans died from HIV because of Thabo Mbeki. So, in the annals of what was the worst government, the National Party and apartheid, or the ANC and black supremacy, at some point we have to begin to evaluate that perhaps black supremacy under the ANC and its misgovernance or malgovernance may be as bad or worse than apartheid. I think that's time for conversation. Clap your hands for the government, tells Cyril Ramaphosa to the trained SEALs in the audience in Northwest Province. Wow, he said only 100,000 people died of COVID, and those who lost were helped with the 350, who lost jobs were helped with the 350 Rand social relief grant. Are you serious? First off, it's insulting to tell people that they survived because you gave them something that you stole from someone else. From a taxpayer, you gave it to another person. Secondly, it's even more insulting when the amount of money that you gave to people to buy their affinity, their loyalty, and their vote is $23 a month. People are supposed to survive on $23 a month. I mean, if you're going to insult these South Africans, these black South Africans, you could have at least given them $300 a month, not $23 a month. Yeah, there you go. Wow, only 100,000 died under COVID. He said, you seem to have forgotten it. We had to shut down everything. It was a tough decision. No, it wasn't. It was a fascist decision. It wasn't tough at all. And it had no impact on stopping the spread of COVID. None whatsoever. 2 million jobs lost. More like 3.5 million jobs lost, Cyril. Yeah. In the end, only 100,000 people died in South Africa. In other countries, millions died. Well, yeah, other countries weren't using draconian fascist rules to lock people in their homes in violation of their constitutions. Some did, and they got away with it. We started the 350 Rand grant. But the crowd said, it is declining. Ooh. Undisturbed, Ramaphosa said 350 was able to help 11 million people. Clap hands for your government. Wow. That's what they think of black voters, the ANC, telling them to clap their hands, doing what they're told to do. Good little serfs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for their part, the Democratic Alliance is making waves. According to John Steenhuisen, he says, get ready for a big surprise in KwaZulu-Natal. Here you can see Steenhuisen with Chris Pappas, the mayor of Umgeni, Howick. DA leader John Steenhuisen says other political parties are in for a big surprise on Election Day. He and other DA leaders, including Chris Pappas, KZN chairperson Dean McPherson, went door to door in Tuzuma, north of Durban. The DA regards KwaZulu-Natal as a province will likely yield its first coalition government after the election, in which the DA will play a pivotal role. Addressing DA activists, he said, KZN is going to be a big surprise in this election. DA is going to have a great result here. On the 30th, we're going to wake up with a new premier, Chris Pappas, but it's going to require all of us to do the work over the next 7 days. He greeted old and young folks in isiZulu and later asked about their problems. Pappas also conversed with potential voters. The sewage stench hogged the atmosphere under the heat as dozens of activists clad in DA colors canvassed for votes. He told one resident that Chris Pappas would fix all their problems, including crime and unemployment. The woman assured him that she would vote for the DA. Steenhuisen told activists, when people meet on the ground, it reminds us why we're doing what we're doing. We're not doing this to make ourselves rich or our lives better. We're doing it for those go-go's. One go-go has never owned a house. When I see that young lady who cannot get into university to study what she wants to study, these are the people we're fighting for. Well, I can never serve in politics in South Africa because I'm not fighting to give handouts to poor people. I'm fighting for a legitimate, just government that ensures public safety and a level playing field for everyone and equal access to government resources for all South Africans, not for the privileged class under the ANC. So I guess I would never be successful in South Africa as a politician. Meanwhile, the MK party. Let's talk about the MK party. No, the DA will not win KZN scientists. He's not making that claim. He's saying that they're going to do better than people suspect. Bishop Shikedi, who supported Zuma and Mohang for presidential candidates, now tops the MK's party list. The religious leader, who is not even in the MK party, he's the leader of the All-African Alliance movement, but he's the number one candidate on the MK parliamentary list now because Jacob Zuma was disqualified and Jabulani Khumalo was kicked out of the party. So a guy who's not even in the party and has no business running under the MK standard while he leads another party is still on the ballot. Louis Liebenberg, the diamond trader, the diamond dealer, said that there's a prophecy that Zuma will lead the country again. Wow. But it ain't going to happen now, folks, because he has been disqualified. Maybe in 2026. Speaking to the media at the party's manifesto launch in Orlando, Liebenberg, who's a financial backer of Jacob Zuma and a longtime friend of his, said he would become the next president, or would become president again. He said, that man who looked small the first time I saw him, he grew in stature, and God showed me that he's going to be president once more before he goes to heaven and sings a new song with the angels. This man will lead this country. This is a prophecy. In the next 2 weeks, we can make it happen. He's the only man that can unite South Africa, nobody else. Well, I don't know that much of that's true, but Louis Liebenberg is certainly devoted to Jacob Zuma. And unfortunately, his prophecy is delayed for at least 2 years, at least, unfortunately, from his perspective. MK Party founder Jabulani Khumalo has meanwhile approached the Electoral Court, the discredited Electoral Court that was smacked down this week by the Constitutional Court, and asked for them to set aside the recognition of Jacob Zuma as president of the MK Party because it's fraudulent. He claims Dudu Zile Zuma Sambudla, the isiZulu challenged Zulu daughter of Zulu Jacob Zuma, who can't speak Zulu, Easy Zulu, Dudu Zile, forged his signature on a document that he never prepared and sent to the IC, ousting him as president and putting in Jacob Zuma. He claims it was fraudulent. He didn't do it. So, it seems to me, he said, that Miss Dudu Zile Zuma Sambudla forged my signature on a document I did not prepare and sent it to the IEC to create the impression that Jacob Zuma is now the president. Perhaps therein lies the confusion. In it, she claims I resigned as MK party leader and was replaced by Mr. Zuma. He denies it, and the intrigue continues with the MK party. The Judicial Services Commission has selected its first ever candidate to become the Chief Justice, who happens to have an X and a Y chromosome, or an X and X chromosome, right? Yeah, XX, XX, XY, XX. Yeah. Anyway, Judicial Service Commission interviewed and recommended Deputy Chief Justice Madisa Maya for the post of Chief Justice yesterday. If she gets appointed, she'll be the first woman to hold a position in post-apartheid South Africa. And guess what? Who cares? I don't care that she's not a swinging Richard. Is she up for the task? That's all I care about. Neglected Eastern Cape residents say the African National Congress visit to ask about their challenges was a joke. Well, I'd recommend that you don't vote for them. Residents of the Daniel Sikwalo West Village say they feel neglected by ANC-led Buffalo City Metro. After not seeing the councillor in their area for many months, the community of Daniel Sikwalo outside East London claimed ANC volunteers recently visited the area to ask about the challenges they're facing. Although frustrated because of the lack of services, community members said they laughed at the party volunteers. That was a joke to us, said the village's committee member, Zoli Ngupo. We've been writing to the Buffalo City Metro for many years, pleading with them to fix our roads and provide us with reliable, clean water. Municipalities led by the ANC, so they know about our issues. This ward is led by ANC Councillor Monde Mfene. She said the village has been neglected by the municipality. Yep. On the day of the visit, Lono Sinkwana was walking around the village with a 10-liter bucket looking for water. And Sequoia said there was a water outage in the village on Monday and the taps were dry. What am I going to drink? How am I going to cook? Temperatures soared to 30 degrees Celsius. Wow. 20 taps are spread across the village for 1,000 households. The demand for clean, reliable water is huge in the village. That is why we have so many water outages. Well, the ANC has brought you water. 20 taps for 1,000 people. Every 50 people, there's a tap. Not in their homes. Day 56 of no load shedding. South Africans are excited, but don't get too excited. The election comes next week. An energy expert has warned South Africans that despite going load shedding free for 56 straight days, the winter chills and heightened demand will soon see the country snap back into blackouts. Professor Samson Mpambweli, the head of South African National Energy Development Institute, who said load shedding will return in winter as the country's generation fleet would likely come under more pressure as demand heightens. He gave an interview on Newsroom Africa. Heartbroken. The United Independent Movement leader, Neil de Beer, plans for a disciplinary hearing for Devin Hofmeyr after the MK Gala dinner. UIM Parliament candidate Devin Hofmeyr faces disciplinary proceedings for bringing the party in disrepute by attending the MK's party gala on Friday. Hofmeyr, the son of musician Steve Hofmeyr, holds the 5th spot in UIM's parliamentary candidate list. He dominated headlines of the weekend as pictures of him at the gala dinner with former President Jacob Zuma's financial backer Louis Liebenberg went viral on social media. Wow, really? Where are these pictures at? Has anybody seen these pictures? Well, here you go. There's Devin Hofmeyr with his partner, and there's Louis Liebenberg standing behind Devin Hofmeyr and Louis Liebenberg's spouse in the lovely green dress. There you go. There you go. So apparently it's true. It is true. Interesting, to say the very least. Devin Hofmeyr, in fact, did attend this gala. Well, there you go, folks. So we'll see what happens with the UIM. Absolutely barbaric, intentionally lighting on fire a vehicle with animals trapped in it. Man, I'll tell you what. People have no respect for life. 3 dogs burned to death after an SPCA vehicle was set alight in Margate. An SPCA, Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, isn't that ironic? Vehicle with 3 dogs trapped inside was intentionally set on fire in Uvonga area of Margate in KZN. The incident described as an act of animal cruelty occurred Sunday evening. SPCA's call for swift and stringent action against the perpetrators. The suspected arson attack on Sunday evening sent shockwaves through the local community, with many calling for action against the perpetrators. Wow. It's absolutely barbaric that anyone would commit such a heinous act against the SPCA, being a nonprofit organization with extremely limited resources. Agreed. But hey, this is South Africa, where barbarians, barbaric, tribal clowns rule the roost. An advertising poster for Mr. Price has got people up in arms. The story by Jolene Maharaj, saying that the advertising board said that the advert with the little girl was provocative and sexualized. Now, presumably it's the little blonde girl here with the peace symbol, but we can't see the whole ad. The Advertising Regulatory Board has ruled in favor of a consumer who complained about a Mr. Price Kids advertisement, which she found smacks of objectifying females. In her complaint, Nastasia Oosthuizen lodged her complaint against an in-store advertisement for Mr. Price Kids. She said a young female child with makeup sitting in a very inappropriately sexualized way with open legs and just inappropriate for a young girl. It smacks of objectifying females. At first glance, the image is not overly problematic. The makeup that the complainant refers to is not obvious, and the child has a very youthful haircut and is wearing a tracksuit that doesn't hug her figure in any way. However, on further contemplation, the directorate agreed that the open legs, hands on hips, and pout of the child all contribute to a sexually suggestive positioning. Well, there you go. I haven't seen the advert. Have you seen it at Mr. Price? Folks, it may be a very difficult summer test season for our Springboks. My goodness, the injuries are piling up. Who's going to replace these top players? Well, News 24, Lucanio Am is out for an extended period of time, and maybe Jesse Creel is the replacement, or Keenan Moody in their assessment. Stephen Kitsoff is also out. The spicy plum is not going to be available, apparently. and Mchunu or Gerhard Steenekamp from the Bulls are obvious replacements. Damon Willemse, with the ligament damage in his fingers, could be replaced by Afide Fasse or Kuhn Horn. It'd be a call-up for Kuhn Horn to be a first. Fasse's already been up to the Springboks. Faf de Klerk apparently still out of action, along with Jaden Hendrickson. And Kobus Reinach and Sanini Nohamba listed as potential call-ups. Makes sense. It looks like Grant Williams is sliding down the list. Quagga Smith is also out and might not be back. So Marco van Staden or J.C. Pretorius. But J.C. Pretorius is a dark horse. It seems unlikely he would come up. Marco van Staden is much likelier. ESCOM. Well, as U.S. influence across Africa wanes under the corrupt regime of Joe Biden, the cowardly regime of Joe Biden that influences no one in Africa, Kenya throws us a lifeline. President Ruto's visit to Washington comes as coups and wars, the use of Russian mercenaries, and Chinese loans have eroded Washington's influence in Africa. But Catherine Hureld of the Washington Post, where the truth dies in darkness, should be more forthcoming and honest. Those may be contributing factors, but the reason U.S. influence is waning in Africa is because Joe Biden is inept, incompetent, dishonest, and corrupt. And his regime is not influential anywhere on the planet, except with America-hating anti-Semites who run rampant all over campus. They're not even there because they hate him. Well, folks, I've told you previously on this program multiple times that 3% of global carbon emissions come from the global container ship market. So these huge container ships like the one that ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in the Patapsco River in Baltimore carry this cargo around the world as part of the global marketplace. Those ships account for 3% of all carbon dioxide emissions, mostly because they burn kerosene, and they do it inefficiently. Well, a ridiculously simple correction to this, instead of sailing as fast as you can and then waiting at port, but adjusting using software, GPS to update and time it so that ships arrive in port by traveling at a slower speed in a sequence where they don't have to wait and sit there and burn fuel for days on end, that it reduces carbon emissions 17% or more. Well, look at that. Ridiculously simple idea that cuts cargo ship emissions by 17% in the first trials. Without any modification of the ships themselves, the ambitious Blue Visby solution proposes enormous fuel and emission savings for cargo ships worldwide simply by being smarter about speed and timing and eliminating inefficiencies. There you go. Shipping is an extremely efficient way to move bulk goods around the planet, but it's responsible for 3% of global man-made carbon emissions, and the unique energy requirements of long-haul cargo ships make them extremely difficult to decarbonize. So there you go. Those huge ships like that spend an estimated 8% of their time idling at anchor outside a port because they got there too fast. So slow them down. Just a 1% reduction in their speed, 1 knot slower, not 1%, 1 knot slower, can reduce emissions by 16%, just that alone. 1 knot slower per hour. The International Criminal Court warrant request appears to shore up domestic support for Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu was facing opposition and a crumbling support base in Israel in the wake of the Hamas war, now finds support for himself rising once again, and Israel gets behind the troubled leader. The hypocrisy of The Hague, the front page of one of the mainstream papers, has been, which is critical. That paper is critical of the Prime Minister, but that's what they said. If the headlines in Israel are anything to go by, the request by the International Criminal Court chief prosecutor for an arrest warrant against Netanyahu seemed to have granted the Israeli leader one of the most fortuitous turnarounds in his long and turbulent political career. The hypocrisy of The Hague blared headline yesterday in Yedioth Aharonot, a popular mainstream daily, has often been critical of Mr. Netanyahu. So the threat of an arrest against him and Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, is rallying support for them, much like an event can change electoral fortunes. Years ago, Gerhard Schröder was on his way to be swallowed up in an election and the SPD destroyed. But fortuitously for him, there were floods in Germany. And he got on a defense helicopter and was flying all over. The media covered it as if he was some conquering hero and some great leader, which hoodwinked enough Germans to swing the vote, and the SPD stayed in power. And Schröder destroyed German citizenship in the process, granting it to people who aren't German while denying to people of German origin. Like me. Not that I wanted it. Armies of young insurgents are crawling all over Myanmar and trying to oust the corrupt military junta that overthrew a democratically elected corrupt government. Yep, in a blistering hot day above 40 degrees Celsius behind bamboo poles, young resistance fighters carry large, heavy battery packs and amplifier. Leading the ascent is Nai Mao Zin, a former army captain who after 12 years defected to the resistance. With dark green camouflage jacket draped over one shoulder, he has the air of a performer about to take stage. But he's here to urge the soldiers who are loyal to the country's ruling military to switch sides. And many have switched sides, like he has done. Myanmar, the forgotten war, the ignored war by Joe Biden. Now, Western volunteers are apparently showing up to support the rebels in Myanmar. Traveling independently to Southeast Asia, they say they were inspired by the bravery of the anti-coup fighters. On the left-hand side there is Azad, a U.S. national. Not an American, but a U.S. national. Why do we give citizenship to these criminals who participate in these conflicts illegally as a soldier of fortune? Azad, yes, is among the foreigners who have joined the armed resistance in Myanmar. An ex-British soldier and an American fighter, wrong, an American national fighter, are among the small but growing number of foreigners training and fighting alongside anti-coup forces in the war against Myanmar's military regime. It just gets crazier as the days go by. Russia announced on its website that it wanted a redefinition of a maritime boundary in the Baltic. Yeah, this raised some consternation with NATO countries. But Russia has deleted the draft proposal for the Baltic Sea border. A Russian Defense Ministry proposal to revise Russia's maritime border in the eastern Baltic was deleted today from an official portal after creating confusion and concern among NATO members such as Finland, Sweden, Lithuania, and Estonia. In its official submission, the Defense Ministry said the Soviet measurement of the border from 1985 had used a mid-20th century nautical chart and so did not fully correspond with the more modern cartographical coordinates. But they quietly withdrew it. Smart move. Well, Spain, Norway, and Ireland are recognizing terrorist states. Spain, Norway, and Ireland have recognized the terror state of Hamas. Yep. And look at them all. Clowns all standing and applauding, mostly white. Members of the government parliament in Madrid announced the country will recognize the state of Palestine. Spain, Norway, and Ireland said that they would recognize an independent Palestinian state. Scores of countries have recognized Palestinian statehood, but this makes a big difference. Now, here's the problem. That was 1993, and that was the scumbag terrorist Yasser Arafat refusing to have a two-state solution. The Palestinians do not want a two-state solution. They want to get rid of the Jews. It's as simple as that. Well, turning our attention here to the United States, Fani Willis has won re-election despite her alleged criminal conduct and misuse of funds to pay her lover to fly her on vacations to knock boots with her. Willis proceeds to the November general election after winning her primary, which will face Courtney Kramer, a Republican who interned in the Trump White House. Two of the most prominent figures in the Georgia criminal case against Donald Trump easily won their respective elections in their first appearance on the ballot since the high-profile election interference case. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis defeated challenger Christian Y. Smith in Georgia's Democratic primary. Meanwhile, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, who's presiding over the case, was elected to his first full term since being appointed to the court last year, defeating challenger Robert Patillo, according to the Associated Press. So, corruption pays. The Biden administration, speaking of corruption, is canceling another $7.7 billion in student loans. So, in effect, the Biden regime has unlawfully increased our taxes by another $7.7 billion because we have to pay for the freeloaders. The announcement applied to 160,000 federal loan borrowers and brings the total debt cancellation by the corrupt regime to $167 billion. That's $167 billion in taxes that we have to fork over to a corrupt regime because they forgave the loans of deadbeats who profited from the money they borrowed and refused to pay it back. Yeah. A judge overseeing the so-called classified documents case for Donald Trump, although we still see no criminal charges for Joe Biden, who stole classified documents knowingly and hid them in a think tank and left them in his garage unprotected for years and did so when he wasn't even a government official anymore. Despite that, no criminal charges against Joe Biden, but Donald Trump was criminally charged. The judge overseeing the case has admonished the prosecutor because the prosecutor had initially said that documents could be released to the public, but now it changes their tune when they're afraid that the public will learn the truth about what the FBI did by planting evidence at Mar-a-Lago. Judge holds first hearing since delaying Trump classified documents trial and criticizing special counsel. As the Manhattan hush money case against Donald Trump nears its conclusion, a new phase of pretrial activity begins today in the federal classified documents prosecution, or should we say persecution, of former president in Florida. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon will hear arguments from defense attorneys on two separate bids to throw out charges in the case. In the first motion, Trump's valet and co-defendant, Walt Nauta, alleges he is being vindictively prosecuted. In the second, Trump and his co-defendants argue the indictment suffers technical flaws requiring its dismissal. Yep. He will skip today's proceedings, which started at 10 o'clock this morning in Fort Pierce. Now, the judge has admonished them from newly unsealed records. In her order Sunday allowing for the filings to be made public, Cannon took a shot at prosecutors, one of several swipes she's made at Jack Smith's office. She expressed concern that special counsel Jack Smith's office had sought redactions of information in the newly unsealed filings after previously giving the approval that that information be published in full in earlier court filings. Judge Cannon said the court is disappointed in these developments. The sealing and redaction rules should be applied consistently and fairly upon a sufficient factual and legal showing. Parties should not make requests that undermine any prior representations or positions except upon full disclosure to the court and the appropriate briefing. There you have it, folks. The judge is chastising the corrupt prosecutor, Jack Smith. The United States is signaling that it will plan to sanction the International Criminal Court over its bogus warrant of arrest for a country that is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. That would be Israel. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken suggested he'll work with lawmakers on potential sanctions against the International Criminal Court as its prosecutor seeks arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials. Blinken told a congressional hearing he was committed to taking action against the profoundly wrong-headed decision. The United States, of course, is not a member of this kangaroo court, but has backed previous prosecutions, including the one for Vladimir Putin. So no consistency there. Yep. Well, I don't know what sanctions they're going to hold against The Hague. What are you going to sanction them for? Not let their judges fly to the United States? Ooh. The first crew launch of the Boeing Starliner capsule has been placed on hold indefinitely. Damn it. I was going to cover that. It's been delayed twice now. The first crew test of Boeing's long-delayed Starliner spacecraft won't take off as planned on Saturday. It could face longer postponement as engineers evaluate a stubborn leak of helium from the capsule's propulsion system. NASA announced the latest delay of Starliner test flight late Tuesday. Officials will take more time to consider their options for how to proceed with the mission after discovering the small helium leak on the spacecraft's service module. So much for the Starliner launch crewed mission. Not going to happen. Well, there you go, folks. That's the news for today. That's fewer than I expected to do. We're busy doing some video production earlier. So let's take a look and see what people have had to say in the chat here. Thank you for being here today. Let me go back. We start on time. So the ANC are petrified of potential white uprising. Not sure why. White South Africans accept that the South Africans try to adapt accordingly. Exactly, Charles. I don't see the same on the other side. No. In fact, it's getting worse. Black supremacy is rising. Attacks on white South Africans and other minorities are off the charts. Yeah. And the hypocrisy in racism charges is evident every day. Giving more than $23 means that they would have less to put in their own pockets, says Garrett. Yeah, you're right. Does that not explain why they try to control all aspects of education, keep you dumb, and stay in power in perpetuity? It does, and I've made that point endlessly. Thank you for that, Charles. Okay. The DA will not win KZN, says the scientist. 100% agreed. And neither will the ANC. They may have a plurality, but they're not going to win. They're not going to win. And what made sure that they went below 50% is the appearance of MK on the ballot in KZN. Liebenberg, what's that? Smoking Zumazal again. Every ward led by the ANC is a disaster. Agreed, Lorraine, that's a fact, but they'll still vote for them. The elders. Load shedding's back on Monday after the election. It'll be back. I don't know if it'll be that quick. Hey, Freelance Kate, how's it going? I last saw you at Ronaldo's channel last week. How's it going? Yeah, the winter gift after elections, load shedding. Yep. Still don't understand why he got booted. He went to a function, so what? Yeah, Charles, I look, I mean, I don't know the rules. I haven't read the rules of the political parties in South Africa, and you bring a party in disrepute by going to a function. But I mean, you got to be smarter than that. I know, Devin, that's not a very wise decision. I mean, knowing that the UIM is part of the multi-party charter whose sole function is to oust the ANC from governance, why would you go to an event for MK? I suppose because you think MK would help oust the ANC, but it's just not wise. I don't know if it's youthful indiscretion or what was going on there, but it's proven to be a distraction. So. Will there be a live stream with Ronaldo tonight? Freelance Kate, there will not. Ronaldo has meetings because of the election tonight and tomorrow, so it'll be on Friday again. Yep. Sean Gunter says, sadly, we have to accept that ANC will still be the dominant party. I don't agree, Sean. I don't agree. They're not going to be, dominant party. Yeah, okay, maybe. Majority party, no. They won't be in the majority. ANC will not be in the majority in Western Cape and will not be in the majority in KZN, and it probably won't be a majority in Gauteng province either. Nationally, it won't be in the majority. We'll see what happens, but I don't see that happening. Gavin, what's this? Okay. Well, first it was Tresemme, now Mr. Price. Yeah, but I haven't seen the ad, Hendo, so I can't say. I mean, I haven't seen whether it's provocative. I mean, lots of little kids have their legs open and spread. But I'm guessing that the child had her hand on her hip and was doing this and was making a pouty lip thing and then had her legs open. So, I mean, I suppose, I suppose the good news is that people are watching out for the safety of minors. I mean, I didn't see the ad. I don't know. Lucanio must retire. Is more injured than fit. He is injured quite a bit. Wanting Turtle says, I must say I'm loving living in Cape Town again. The weather is not very Caribbean and sun gets very lazy this time of year, but the city actually works. For the most part, I mean, just don't spend time in the Cape Flats and be careful on Airport Extension Road and you'll probably be okay. Also, down in the older parts of town, be careful because you could be stabbed and robbed. It's very dangerous. Has Hendo been taken over by a bot? Net bot. Most corrupt history of the U.S. Probably the rain, and that's saying an awful lot. And I say corrupt not necessarily from thieving money, but corruption includes violating the law. And the Biden regime violates the law every single day. They violate the Constitution. It's just, it's epic. Their conduct is off the charts, and people just excuse it all the time. Yep. Sedgefield's here. Hey. Passport update, no passport. I called on Monday. I gave them my credit card details to pay an additional $60 for an expedited process and another $20 for the next day mail. And they said, well, we can't guarantee that you will get the process. If you do, we'll send you an email. I've received no email, so I don't know what's going on. Probably not going to get my passport. Yep. Wandering Turtle. Cape Town is awesome, says Lorraine. Yeah, it's not bad. Did Robert Mugabe have a warrant issued by The Hague? No, he didn't. So, Wanting Turtle says, if you suspect someone on Twitter is a bot, teeth at them with a prompt. Huh, I had no idea what you're saying. There's Erica. How's it going, Erica? And Chris Swanepoel's here. And Donga's back. Quite the contrary. It's an exciting reality. The ANC will remain the dominant party. The will of the people prevails. And Donga, you're nothing if not devoted. All right, who else we got here? Debbie Morey's back. Good to see Debbie. I haven't seen Paulie today. Clive Streak says 54 likes, 58 now. So keep hitting that button. Ndonga's a big fan of the oppression of the minority, the tyranny of the majority. Democracy. Yeah, it's not a good form of government. Okay, we don't have a democracy. MK Party for one doesn't recognize Roman industrial law. There you go. And, oh, there you go. Sable, thank you for becoming a member. Nick has just gifted memberships. I'm going to have to get in the salute mode here. Oh, my goodness. Ah, okay. And there's Krista Arbiton. There you go. What else we got here? What did I miss? Somebody else is chatting there. Wanting Turtle said, I would have voted for the EF, but the commander-in-chief told me that if they hadn't built the school by this time, we shouldn't vote for. That's a good point. Oliver, congratulations. Yeah, they did say if we don't build the school in 2 years, then don't vote for us back in 2019. Well, it's 2024 and they haven't built any schools. And Gypsy Backpackers, there you go. Ndonga says the MK party's a cult. Well, that's true. Just like Trump's MAGA gang. Well, there's no reason to insult Americans. And Matt Canali became membership. There you go. Yeah, Trump's MAGA gang. So yeah, the problem with that statement is that people lump anybody who votes for Trump into the MAGA crowd, which is simply dishonest. Is there still a military base there in Pretoria, Heckport? There's a military base in Pretoria. It's where the Defense College, whatever it's called, is located. Yep. DA slipped up with the golden opportunity. Yeah. The deuce with the hat has not released the crime stats. Yeah, we haven't seen the crime stats. Yep, agreed. Fred Raleigh. Is it Raleigh or Raleigh? Nice ad for CBI circuit breakers. Huh? What you talking about, man? What you talking about, Willis? A nice advertisement for the CBI circuit breakers. Oh, Erica has a bad flu. It's probably the Rona. Why did Matt get one? Because he's the Super Brew champ. Dylan says, I thought you retired from the saluting thing. No, I said when people become members on the program, if it's on air, I'll salute them. Yes, the DA had a live stream on air today, and Celia Sprink spoke. Look, there's a big crowd. Mostly black folks were there in, was it in Soweto? Yeah, in Soweto. But I have to say that the enthusiasm of the crowd wasn't what you see whipped up at other parties. But that's not an indication of anything, you know. I'm just saying. Yep, Trump's MAGA is great. I'm a faithful Trump supporter, says Lorraine. All right, cool beans. Are we having beer tonight? Oh, yeah. Well, I know Nick isn't having beer because I haven't seen any super chats coming. When the super chats start coming from Nick, then I know that he's drinking beer. That's funny. A four-tracker hooked. What's a hooked up? Monument? Is that the monument? Yeah, that's in Pretoria. I've been there. Covered that. In fact, let me see if I can find that real quick. Four-tracker. I typed it in wrong. No, I don't see it there. Interesting. I know I've done videos from there. Anyway, yeah, so I see Rishi Sunak is called a July election. Oh, well, hey, there you go. UK has a July election after the disaster results for the Tory party in local elections. Yeah, it didn't go well for them. Oh, the base is called Fort Tracker. Okay, I was going to say. Yeah. Do you know other people who would be so much better than Trump or Biden or Hillary? Surely there are. Yes, tons of better people. Tons of better people. Me? Tons of better people. Ted Cruz. Yep. Josh Hawley. Tim Scott. There's a whole bunch of people. Nick has cracked open a beer. Here comes the super chat. Oh, my goodness. Sean says beer's the only reason to get up in the afternoon. Get up in the afternoon? What kind of schedule do you have? Are you a nighttime worker or are you just getting out of bed late in the day? Four Tracker Heights. Yeah, there you go. That's why it was confusing me. Yep. Been there. Just I was confused by the typing. I thought it was a typo. Yep. No, but I was curious about the Four Tracker Monument because I've done videos for that, but when I just searched for it, I couldn't find them. That's odd. Very odd. Anyway. H1N1 is running rife. Be careful out there. Oh, bird flu. And Nick just gave 70 rand. Thank you for that, Nick. Thank you very much. I'll be in town all week. So hunga bird of love. I'm off to see the dentist today. I think that a filling fell out of a tooth that I had a root canal in because there's a big hole there. And there's no nerve in there now. So if I don't get it looked at, I could have decay, so. Ted Cruz is a brilliant constitutional lawyer, unlike Barry Obama, who was a constitutional attorney who didn't even understand the Constitution. But of course, Barry did regale us with his knowledge of America. These 50, it's like watching History of the World with Mel Brooks. The Lord Jehovah hath given us these 50, dropped one of the tablets. 10 commandments. That's just like Barry Obama. Here in these 56 United States. Oh, Barry Obama, the man who was the Manchurian candidate sitting in the White House. Yep, selling America down the river, dividing the country on race, and impoverishing the world. Yep. Hey, and getting hundreds of thousands of people killed in North Africa and the Middle East with his encouragement. Remember Barry Obama? Hey, Hercules, Arab Spring, do it, overthrow the governments. Oh, there's a good idea. H1N1, I didn't, we're gonna be nitpicking here. I was having fun. H1N1. H1N1, swine flu pandemic, 2009. You're going to nitpick over that. My point was not H1N1 calling it bird flu, but it was at the same time that they tried to get us all jazzed up about bird flu. H1N1, bird flu. Then they tried to do it with Zika. That was my point. I've done that soliloquy many times. Mike Pence should be Trump's vice president. Mike Pence should go away. Interest. There was a headline today or yesterday from an earthworm that died of bird flu. They wanted to lock down again. God, I believe it. Nonga says the ANC doesn't steal any votes. It has genuine mass support. Yeah, and Nonga's correct. The ANC does have genuine support from people who are complete idiots who have worked against their own interest. I mean, let me read you some of the stuff from the story from earlier. So News 24 spoke today, just a week before the election, to party elders in Nelspruit, well, in Tonga, outside of Nelspruit. Now, they were all talking about Jacob Zuma and MK saying he betrayed the party. But this 82-year-old named Professor Mdluli said, I love the ANC because it was able to transform South Africa into a failed state. Today we see development in South Africa. Where? What development? I've been voting for the ANC in the past 6 elections. I'm not confused. No, he's not confused. He's just willing to participate in the collapse of South Africa. Percy Masuku, an octogenarian at the age of 84, said he joined the ANC back in 1960. The ANC is my everything. I live for it. It's done so much for me. I don't think anything about Zuma. Well, how nice for him that the ANC's done so much for him and he can live for that. If only the 90 murdered South Africans every single day and the hundreds of thousands of HIV deaths attributed directly to Thabo Mbeki, if only those people could live under the ANC every day. But instead, they've been killed through negligence or murder or criminality. Now, Masuku added, I'm a cohort of Chris Hani. I am a veteran. I went to bed hungry for the ANC. I buried many people. Zuma is Zuma. He can do what he wants. He said, this is a political issue. I grew up in the ANC and I left the country in 1958 to fight for the ANC in Swaziland, Mozambique, and Russia. I'm a real MK veteran. I was once the commander of an MK structure. We were all commanders with Zuma. Well, congratulations, buddy. Congratulations. He said that he worked alongside a number of ANC leaders, including the late Chris Hani and Tabang Makwetla. We were together. So what? People get married. Most marriages begin on a very happy note. Smiles, wedding cakes, dances. But then things change later. Spouses harm one another. And then comes divorce. If half of marriages can end in divorce, why are ANC loyalists so devoted to a party that is little more than a racketeering scheme to enrich the leaders at the expense of all South Africans, especially black South Africans? These ANC elders are like abused spouses who stay in a marriage that is contrary to their best interests. Absolutely. That's what's going on here. And Nonga says that democracy is about freedom of choice. If only we could respect that and not lampoon those who choose the ANC. What, you mean like you just lampoon those who vote for Donald Trump? Or how you lampoon DA supporters? Dude, your hypocrisy is rife. Don't sit here and try to play the high ground when you're the person who actually initiated these attacks. Yep. Civic Concern actually posted a video where ANC officials were coaxing coach people into voting for them. Yeah, it is vote rigging. Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. But I'm not in South Africa, and my skin isn't black, so I don't get promoted with my South African content. So no one brought that to my attention. A falsely guilted U.S. citizen appointed Mary. Yep. RJ should be working a dissertation. What's your dissertation on? Yep. All the ANC have is a past as opposed to the recent past. And a lot of what they spend their lives anyway. Yes, avian flu is an annual occurrence at poultry farms. Correct. Steenhuisen's uneducated. That's factually a lie, Ndonga. See, you need to be factual. John Steenhuisen's not uneducated. He graduated high school. He's literate. So how is he uneducated? How is he uneducated? Oh, so only people who've gone to university are educated? Well, can you keep up with me, Ndonga? You have a PhD, I guess. But I have 3 master's degrees, associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, certifications from universities beyond that, speak 6 languages. So does that make me educated? No. John Steenhuisen is educated. He just didn't go to university. If you think university education is what makes great leaders, then you really don't understand what leaders are. Yep. Yep. Supporting the ANC runs in the DA. Well, it does. I mean, I just read to you the statements of these people. Again, let me relate the story about Reeflay in Northwest Province. So the Forum for Democrats, a Tswana-based party that has a member on the Rustenburg Council, the Ramola, whatever they call it, what they renamed the thing, something in Tswana, which I can't remember. But Rustenburg, that council, they took me out when I visited last time to Reeflay. I drove down there, and we went out to Reeflay at a disused slate mine on land that belongs to a private landowner who allows the people to live there rent-free. He'd let them live there. Some of them used to work in the mine before it went into disuse back in the late 1980s. They've been there ever since. He's offered to sell the land to Rustenburg Municipality. They don't want it. The ANC has never, they've stolen all the money that they could have used to buy the land. They're not interested in it. So I interviewed this go-go, and I said, Ma, may I ask you a question? She said, yes. I said, do you vote? She said, yes, I do vote. I said, well, congratulations. I said, why do you vote? It's my civic responsibility, my duty. I said, well, I agree 100%. I have voted every single time in every election since I became eligible at the age of 18, and I'm 50-some years old. So I said, I respect that. Then I said, may I ask you another question? She said, yes. I said, if I may ask, whom do you vote for? She said, the ANC. And I said, well, there's no water here. The road is unpaved. There's no work. You told me that the roving medical clinic no longer comes here for the past 2 years. The ANC stopped that. And you have no hope here. But you vote for the ANC. Yes. Why do you vote for the ANC, Ma? Because I'm expected to. Oh. It's expected of you to vote for the ANC, despite the fact that they make your life a living hell. Yep. Yep. So Ndonga says that high school graduation is insufficient. That means you're not educated. Well, I think, Ndonga, you have a real serious case of elitism and classism that's just, off the charts. Some of the brightest and most successful people in the world aren't educated. Bill Gates doesn't have a bachelor's degree. Bill Gates left university to form Microsoft and is one of the wealthiest people on the planet. Not a fan of Bill Gates, but yeah, the list goes on and on and on of people who wouldn't be educated in Ndonga's mind, but they're incredibly successful and have made the world a far better place. Yep. All right, so what else? I'm doing a master's in engineering, electrical engineering related to the accuracy of load estimation, statistical modeling. Well, okay, RJ. That's very specific. Thank you for sharing that. Yep, appreciate that. Yep. Yeah, here's another factor that's not taken into consideration by Ndonga, and that is the fact that many universities, the quality of their master's and PhD programs are a farce today. They give PhDs away to people who've not done genuine research, wouldn't know what regression analysis was if it smacked them in the face in a textbook, and have no idea what they're talking about. They just put their feelings in nonsense and cite online sources or Wikipedia in PhD dissertations. It's a statement of fact, folks. I've seen this. Yeah, it's pathetic. The quality of PhD issuances has dropped remarkably since the 1990s. Really, really gone down. Why didn't you ask the same question you posed to the Go-Go to apartheid voters? I wasn't in South Africa in 1990, so it was impossible for me to ask the question, Ndonga. How could I have asked the question? I was never in South Africa in 1990 or 85 or 1980. So I didn't experience South Africa under apartheid, so it was impossible for me to ask the people voting for the National Party in favor of apartheid. Just was impossible. So why didn't I ask them? And why do you care? Why do you care? The people you're talking about weren't present at Reedflay. The story is about Reedflay and the lack of services there, meeting the people, who the Forum for Democrats, unlike the ANC, is trying to get services delivered to. One member on the council trying to get resources dedicated to this informal settlement where this person has no family, has no members. They didn't only know about the place because it's in their district, and went out there and saw the grinding poverty. And unlike the ANC, which has been governing Rustenburg since 1994, or I said Rustenburg, it's Zeerust. Let me correct myself. I think I've been saying Rustenburg. It's Zeerust, not Rustenburg. Apologies. A little further west. It's below Zeerust. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. Yeah. I think I said Rustenburg by mistake, but it's Zeerust. So below Zeerust, Kutzi's Rest. The ANC has done nothing for them. They don't care about them. Now, frankly, I'm not that sympathetic. I mean, if I moved to a disused slate mine and had no sewage, no electricity, no plumbing, no roads, no medical care, no jobs, instead of sitting there and knocking up some chica, I would have moved my ass elsewhere and got a job and got a house or an apartment and have been a responsible person. I wouldn't have simply hung out in a place waiting for someone to build a road for me or to deliver electricity to me or give me a job or a SASA grant. That's just, I'm sorry. I can't, Ken, your statement flies in the face of reality. Viewership is up since the troll came. And I don't pander to him. I answer your questions. I read your comments all the time. I read lots of people. I've read everybody's comments here, except for John Jarvis. I didn't see John. I just saw him pop in there. John left school at 14 and has done pretty well. Yep. Again, Ken, you can block Ndonga. Anybody here in the chat can block another user, and then you don't see them. If someone's disturbing you, you can ignore them. Anyway, by the way, Ken, that's not a fair statement. I've been on the air for over an hour, and for 53 minutes, I didn't address a single comment from that person. So, not fair, brother. Not fair. Anyway, so I can turn it all off. Nobody gets to chat. I can do that too. If that bothers people so much, I can just turn the chat off. Then nobody can chat. Yep. Yeah, let's see. Can I do it while we're mid-flight here? Can I do it mid-flight? I don't know. Let me see. I don't know if it lets me change it during mid-flight. I could change it to just members. And just make it members. Then nobody could chat. Maybe that's what we should do. Nobody gets to chat. Charles, I read most of your comments. What does wanting turtle want? Loving university as an old person. Well, I mean, I just did university again. I did Michigan State. Distance education, but I did Michigan State for the beekeeping course recently. Yeah, that was a good experience. Learned a lot, got certified to be a beekeeper, which was pretty cool. Something I really enjoy. Bees are so important. I've talked about that endlessly. Again, the only experience I've had actually working with bees as a qualified beekeeper. Beer keeper? Yeah, a beer keeper. Yes, I am the brewmeister. No, as a qualified beekeeper, an apiist, and that has nothing to do with primates, apiist, is in South Africa, which is kind of cool when you think about it. That's my first experience. Garrett set that all up. Really appreciate that. That's pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. Lorraine says the world is so offended these days. Such a shame. Yeah, it is. I mean, look, if I took to heart all the nonsense that's stated about me, I'd be suicidal. I mean, think about it. I could be in the next beekeeper movie with Jason Statham. I like Jason Statham as an actor. That'd be pretty cool. No, I haven't seen the movie Grasshopper. People have been talking about it. I haven't seen it. You know what I've been watching lately? I'll tell you what I've been watching. I was reticent to watch it for a long time because the bleached white hair was off-putting. But in desperation, I finally gave in and about 2 weeks ago began watching season 1 of The Witcher. And despite the fact that, it's bizarre, confusing, the timelines are all horked up and you're like, what the hell's going on? It's actually a pretty darn good show. The special effects are amazing. The acting is really, really good for the most part. There are a few lame actors, but Henry Cavill, really good as Geralt of Rivia. Brilliant. But I mean, they introduce stuff all the time. You have no idea what the hell's going on. You don't know the history of it. It's confusing. But yeah, I've been watching The Witcher. So I've got through season 1 and I took a break so I wouldn't consume it all in a binge watch. And then I watched season 2 of Witcher. And now last night I started season 3. Now Henry Cavill is not there after season 3. He's been replaced, which is unfortunate. But wow, it's a pretty darn good show. Yeah. Yes, Charles, the first season was very confusing. I had what the hell is going on here? And it's because you're working off of 3 different timelines that aren't synced up. The timeline with Princess Ciri, the entire season covers 2 weeks. But with Geralt of Rivia, you're going back 70 years or 40 years. And with, what's her name? Yennefer, you're going back 70 years in time. And the thing that's crazy is because it's a magical world, none of them age. So it's confusing. Yeah. Liam Hemsworth is apparently that's correct. But I mean, I don't know why. So they're replacing him as Geralt? I mean, why don't you just bring another Witcher in there? I mean, don't answer that because maybe something happened in season 3 I don't know about. But I did see that they made a movie, Blood Origin, but I looked at Blood Origin and it's just vomit-inducing, the ads. I mean, it's like the anti-white male broadcasting network, It's eliminating white males from everything. I mean, we're talking about a magical world that's created by Europeans in a European scenario and like a Middle Earth sort of thing, and it's full of everyone who's not white. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Witcher is a good watch. Yeah, Fleshin, it is. It is. I was surprised. How good it is. Really good. Yennefer, the character Yennefer, that woman is Indian English. Her mother is a white lady, and her father's Indian. But she's very dark considering that. But yeah. Yeah, Blood Origin was crap, says Charles. Yep. That's what I thought. I'm just looking at it. Looks like it's going to be crap. I haven't watched it. Also, he's replacing as Geralt. Yeah, okay, there you go. Hey, George is here. Welcome back. Good to see you again, man. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Joint Operations Command Center. What are you talking about? Huh? What are people? St. Helena. Oh, Joe is on St. Helena. Good Lord, that's in the middle of nowhere. Wow. You're going to run the Joint Operations Command Center. Wow, Joe, that's pretty interesting. Have I seen The Crown? No, Garrett, I haven't seen The Crown. What is The Crown? Hey, George, how's it going? I haven't watched House of Dragons then. Oh, that's Hendo. I haven't watched either. Erica purposely watches things and put her to sleep. Yeah. Hey, there's another thing I watched that's available on Amazon Prime. Of course, Amazon Prime isn't the same everywhere, so not everybody gets it. But the Amazon Prime that I watch is this guy, is it Robert Breyer, who is a professor at the University of Long Island. He's an Egyptologist. And he surprisingly made this series, probably for PBS, back in the late 1990s. He's 80 now. He's still alive. I looked him up. He did this series about Egypt, which is fascinating. The way he tells the story is unbelievably good. Really, really entertaining, really well done. And it's just stoked my interest in Egyptology. I mean, a lot of people find Egypt interesting. I never found it particularly interesting. But when you think about it, you know, because people are always like, well, it was such an amazing, superior civilization. And in many ways, it was a truly amazing civilization. Lasted for thousands of years. Went through many machinations and ups and downs and trials and tribulations and multiple dynasties. But the thing that always annoyed me is like, oh, the Egyptians so advanced in their medicine. Not really. So advanced in, well, for the time they were, so advanced in their architecture. Really? A pyramid is advanced? It's not really, folks. A pyramid is the laziest, easiest way to build a stable structure because of the way that the weight is shifted and it gets lighter as it goes up. That's not to take anything away from the Great Pyramids. They're incredible. The amount of stone used, the labor that was involved, the commitment, the way that they constructed them. It's all very impressive. But, I mean, people just go overboard with it. Oh, the Egyptians. Oh, yeah. But then it also becomes mired in nonsense. You have black supremacists who claim that Egypt was black. It wasn't. Not that it should matter. It doesn't matter. Nubia was black. So what? It's Sudan. Of course it's black. Those people are blacker than black. But it shouldn't matter. But they turn into a race thing, and then we have to correct the record. In fact, that they were Egyptians before Arabs arrived. And they didn't look like, well, look at this thing on the wall. They're painted black. Well, that was because that's a representation of an Egyptian going to the afterlife. And that's, anyway, so it's, you know, it's, and of course, we had Alexandria and the Greeks, Macedonians who ruled Greece. The list goes on and on. Yeah, but no, Egypt was a pretty impressive civilization. Yes, they are the fruits of indentured humans or slaves. Yep. They've detected a new structure of the Sphinx with Earth radar. What, with LiDAR? Is that what they use LiDAR to do it? Walk like an Egyptian, yeah. No, flesh in the pyramids were not built by aliens. They were built by somebody, but not aliens. Yep. If OnlyFans are models. I don't know about that. Are there conspiracy theories in the U.S. about the helicopter crash? Sean, I don't think most people in America give a flying flip that the president of Iran died. We are shocked and embarrassed that our Congress held a minute of silence to respect the dead butcher of Tehran. I mean, that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. Only a Joe Biden regime and a Democratic-led Congress could such nonsense occur. The Senate had a minute of silence to honor the butcher of Tehran, the man who sent the police out to murder citizens in the streets after their religious police arrested a woman and then murdered her in custody, which sparked outrage. Yeah, no, the butcher of Tehran meant an untimely end. It's a shame he didn't suffer more. The Roman aqueducts. The Roman aqueducts are very impressive, as are Roman roads. Many Roman roads still exist to this day. Did you know that? There are Roman roads that still exist, not just the path, but actual roads where the stones are still out where they laid. Now, not lots, because a lot of those roads were main lines of communication and they were paved or paved over eventually, but LiDAR has uncovered some. Yeah, I know. Look, Nick, I know. The LiDAR with the Mayan ruins. There are so many Mayan cities we're discovering and parts of the Mayan cities that were linked that weren't readily apparent before because of jungle overgrowth. What's shocking about the Mayans is how extensive their civilization was and how quickly it fell apart because it was predicated on a precarious environmental situation. And so that's something that the Green Zealots never talk about either. The Mayans destroyed their environment, and as a consequence, their civilization collapsed. And they're not the first to do it. The Polynesians destroyed the Moa, wiped them out, wiped out most of the species of avians in the New Zealand islands when they came there, and no one talks about that. Same thing on Easter Island. The Polynesians arrived there, destroyed the native fauna, wiping out the massive trees that used to populate the island, denuding it, eventually collapsing their own civilization through a cult of bird followers. Easter Island's history is fascinating, but wow, it shows you what happens when a bunch of fanatics rule, like in South Africa. The amount of earth moved to build the Channel Tunnel. Well, I see that the complaint, either he quit talking or people have disappeared. So either Ndonga left or Ken left, or people just stopped talking about it. None of my moderators should have silenced him. He hadn't done anything wrong. You, as an individual viewer, can silence. You don't have to see the chat. But I'm not seeing anything. Sedgefield says, once the fermented the grain, it all went up in smoke. Huh. Yes, modern civilization is on the road to collapse, courtesy of wokeness and cowardice. Cowardice not stand up against it. Roman engineering seems to have been lost through the ages. No, not true. I mean, we have columns and arches that distribute weight and build bridges based on what the Romans did. So. Yep. And now the Polynesian New Zealand are bitching about their First Nation status. Yeah, exactly, Garrett. I know. I've been in New Zealand. They talk about it all the time. But these people were rapacious and destroyed the natural environment they lived in. This myth of the indigenous peoples in whatever location who were in harmony with nature is a fantasy. It's a fairy tale in most places. People living in harmony with nature and not taking more than they need to. No. Every indigenous human community from most of the planet, except for maybe the Amazon basin, which has an abundance of things for them, so they never had a chance to wipe it all out. They've wiped out species, fish, birds, livestock. They've wiped them all out. Yeah, and also in Australia. Well, Ayers Rock, renamed Lundu or whatever it's called. Yep, and now you can't climb on it. You can't climb on it anymore. It's the Joint Emergency Services Command Center, JESIC. Well, that's pretty interesting, Joe. Thanks for sharing that. Yep. Seems as though civilizations are doomed to fall eventually. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, the Egyptian one, what's fascinating about the Egyptians is that, they were a polytheistic culture. They had multiple gods. And then they had a pharaoh who came along and revolutionized everything. And he was the first person ever to create monotheism. Monotheism, a single god, was created in ancient Egypt by a pharaoh in the 18th dynasty. Akhenaten or something like that was his name. I always get that name wrong. In the 18th dynasty. He was, of course, the father of King Tutankhamun. Yep. Yeah, fascinating stuff. But he created monotheism, and there was a huge backlash against it. Once he died, future pharaohs wiped him and Tutankhamun, and his vizier who replaced him, wiped them off the history books, and they just skipped over 4 pharaohs in a row as if they never existed. Yeah, Akhenaten. Yeah, there you go, Nick. That's the one. Yep. I don't know if that's the right spelling, though. Yeah. So he created monotheism long before Christianity, Judaism, of course, the oldest, or Islam ever came along. Yep. What about my memory, RJ? What about my memory? Anyway, waiting for the next X-Files series. What? X-Files? They're going to do X-Files again? I'm sure it'll be led by black actors. Black lesbians, probably. Yes, because they don't like to promote black gay men, but they will promote black lesbians. Temple at Thebes was all carved over his name, yet replaced by successors. Exactly. He moved his capital from there to a remote location. Where did I leave my coffee? RJ, you left your coffee on top of your car. And when you pulled away, it spilled on the road. Garrett says, I used to look like a Greek god. Now I look like a darn Greek. That's funny. That is funny, man. Anyway, it is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. We are 7 days away from South Africa's election. Hey, look at this souvenir I've got. I don't know if I think the start of graffiti took place long before that. I think if you look back at the rock paintings in caves in France and in the Caucasus and in Romania and Croatia by Neanderthals, that's probably the first graffiti. Yep, or maybe the San and the Khoi down south in Africa when they did their paintings. Yep. I'll tell you what, folks. One of the coolest things to do is take a trip over to the cradle of civilization there, or cradle of mankind, I should say, which is located in the Mahalisburg in South Africa, just northwest of Joburg, southwest of Pretoria, and southeast of Rustenburg. And there's a site there you can go. You go down into the caves and go through it, and they talk about the history of all the hominids were found there. You hear about the latest discovery, the Homo naledi. Of course, naledi is Tswana for star. Yeah, so it's pretty cool stuff. Really cool stuff. Unfortunately, you have to be very careful there when you drive out there because rogue criminals shouldn't be walking out there, even biking out there. People get, all kinds of bad stuff. So there may be civilizations older than the Khoi. Oh, possibly, Chris. I don't know. But Khoi and San go back as much as 50,000 years from these paintings. The Neanderthal paintings in Europe don't go 50,000 years back. At least we haven't found any yet. I think they go back 30 or 40,000. But anyway, yep. Naledi Pandor's home. I don't know. She's from KZN, if I'm not mistaken, or she went to school in KZN. But no, she's from KZN, but she went to school in Northwest and in Botswana, so that's why she knows that. Erica's been there. Well, so has Chris Marie. Chris Marie and I met there. That was the day I blew the tire. Remember that, folks? I busted 2 tires in that crappy Renault Quid. What was that? Quid or whatever that thing's called. That horrible Renault car. Check out Monty Python's Scene in Life of Brian. Graffiti in Latin. It's hilarious. Yeah, I saw that. That's funny. Yeah, that is funny. Sterkfontein Psychiatric Hospital. Oh, I've never been there. Oof. Nope, never been there. That sounds like a horrible place. A psychiatric hospital. Not my cup of tea. Yep. Anyway, I'm still putting in complaint to the United Nations about my Victoria's Secret. And, yeah. Well, look, lack of beauty is the new beauty. Look at the adverts. Look at the people being promoted, unattractive. And, there's nothing wrong with promoting attractiveness. Yikes. Yeah, Chris, I assume you probably have been there when you mentioned it. I didn't want to get into that. So, yeah, RJ, sorry about your coffee. Maybe we can get you another one. By the way, when I was in Belleville in Western Cape, outside of Cape Town, I met with, what's his name there? The musician. I'm drawing a blank right now. And we met at a coffee shop in Belleville. It was pretty cool. Yeah. So, what is the name of... Whose concert did I go to there? I'm drawing a blank right now. Hey, Layla, what's going on? How you doing there? Good to see you. Welcome to the program on a Wednesday, May 22nd. By the way, I've got to call these people because the system says it's 8 kilowatts, but when it gets to 6 kilowatts, it maxes out. I've told you this before. It's very annoying. Right now I'm getting 5.99 kilowatts, but if it's an 8 kilowatt system, I should be generating 8 kilowatts at max peak, but I'm never getting that. And you might say, well, it never gets this. You're not getting that much coming in. No. It gets to 6 and then it just stops as if it can't get any more, which means to me that they lied to me and didn't install 8 kilowatts of power. They only put 6 kilowatts in. And so I'm being cheated out of power every day. So I'm going to call these people. I called them before and I got fluffed off. They just dropped me. The call got dropped after about 9 minutes on hold. But yeah, I've had some good days in a row. Some crappy days in a row this week. I had 14.9, then 14.5. Then we jumped up to 40.6, 45.9, and yesterday I hit 50.1 kilowatt hours. So in the last 3 days, that's 96, 132 kilowatt hours in 3 days. That's more like it. Yeah, so pretty cool. What's this? Big Daddy Liberty's got a video out? What's this video on?
Spend more time on the water and less time worrying.
Okay, yeah. Oh, he's live. He's live. During my broadcast time? Who does he think he is? Who does Big Daddy Liberty think he is?
So we're going to head out to Helenvale and indeed Motherwell, the two townships in this area, to talk to South Africans in this part of the world and to show you how they're living and why this vote on the 29th of May is super important to change things so that people can show up.
So Big Daddy Liberty is live right now doing exactly what my intent was to do. That sucks. I should be in South Africa right now doing what he's doing. Really, really, really should be there. Yeah, that sucks. Well, good for Big Daddy Liberty. Good to see him back out broadcasting again. So, yeah. Anyway. All right, cool. Who thinks up these names? Motherwell. What's Motherwell? Anyway, folks, I'm going to have to wrap up here because in less than 30 minutes, I have an appointment at the dentist to take a look at this molar, which I saw a lot of Big Daddy on TikTok. Okay. Oh, they are big fellows. Yeah. Oh, well, if you ever want to see that, look at the live stream that Big Daddy and I did in, let me see, in Asimtoti. There it is. Asimtoti meet and greet. We did this a couple years ago. If you want to get an impression of how big the fellow is, I mean, he looks like a big guy, but where do you see him next to me, man? This is Big Daddy Liberty and I. This is in Asimtoti. This was a meet and greet that Erica put together in my first trip back in 2022. So you can see the sign over there, August to September 2022. So there I am, next to Big Daddy.
As soon as as a government creates divide, is exactly what they want.
Right. Hopefully I'm on the right channel. Hopefully that's Chris Wyatt Africa and not my Rugby Senate channel. We're live right now. Yeah, well, it went live by mistake. I wasn't intending to go live. I want to see if it's on my channel or if it's on the Rugby channel.
Can they even hear? I mean, you might have to pull that.
That was not the best. This one here is great, but I don't get 2G, so that's fine.
So that's Big Daddy Liberty. He's a big fellow. I mean, he's aptly named. He came up with the right name there. Great guy though, Big Daddy Liberty. He is huge. He makes me look tiny. He does, and I'm not a insignificant waif. You know, I'm not obese, but I'm not. Yeah, he's a big fellow. Yeah, Big Daddy Liberty. Yeah, so people won't get in his way. Anyway, I do have to depart, folks. Thanks for being here. And again, if you are in the chat and you're disturbed by someone who's in the chat and you don't want to see what they have to say, you control that. As a YouTube account holder, you have to have an account, can't just be surfing through. If you have a YouTube account, you simply go to that person, right click, and you can block their comments. Now, that doesn't stop other people from replying to them, and it doesn't stop the host from discussing their comments if they decide to, but you can block their comments if they offend you or disturb you. And that's always been the case. I think a lot of users don't realize that you can block comments. Now, my moderators can and will block comments from someone who is being racist, disrespectful intentionally, or at some point when they're just trolling too much and it's trying to distract from things. Anyway, so there you go. So that's just, so you're on top of things. Anyway, thanks, folks. I do appreciate it. And I'm off to the dentist, and then I'm going to hit the road. So, yeah, Erica says, everyone's big to me. Yeah, Erica is short. And so when you look at Big Daddy Liberty, how large he is compared to me, well, the same sort of comparison is when you see Erica standing next to me. I'm like twice as tall as her. It is. There's Nick. Nick's still having some beard. Says, thanks for stream. Good luck with the dentist. Last time I went, I came back feeling at a stress. No. It's he's going to look at. I think the filling came out because I have to get a toothpick, and then here's a toothpick. If I eat something and it's like I'm digging out all the food out of the tooth, and that shouldn't be the case. And the problem is that there's no longer a nerve there because it was a root canal. So if I don't get it looked at, there could be tooth decay. I'd never know about it, and the tooth would just get weakened and crack and fall apart, and I lose it and have to get an implant. Ugh, don't want that. Anyway, do watch Colonel's premiere. Oh, yeah, I have a premiere coming up at the top of the hour. So at the top of the hour, there's one more video, and that video is about these people who are ANC elders who are voting for them. Hope you come back for filled. Yeah, it should be filled. So anyway, thanks, folks. Y'all take care. I'll see you a little bit later. Thanks for the super chat. Didn't even come up yet. I don't think it has, but there's the 70 Rand super chat. Thank you for that, Nick. Y'all take care. It's always a pleasure, and we'll catch you later on. Cheers, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. What was that? That's not the right one. It's supposed to be the closing video. There's the super chat from Nick. All right, thanks, Layla. You take care. Now, where the heck did it go? Where is it at? Come on, there we go. Now we got it. Cheers.